If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon to get the latest updates.
Hey Sunil.
Hey Abhi, yeah, this is Sunil here.
So the reason we are meeting today, and probably you would have seen in the discussion board notes also, based on your trainer's request, I understood that you wanted to get some idea on the integration area, like basically the security aspect from the integration standpoint, right? And
Right. So,
that is that is where you had shown interest and probably wanted to know more about the security group user and in general, like I think you had also shown some kind of troubleshooting stuff from your tenant. I'm not sure if my understanding is correct.
yeah, I just wanted to see. So here's what I want. I want to understand how ISCs work, right? And the biggest issue for me is when I build a report, if a field is not showing up. How do I go back to say, okay, what is the missing security here? Number one. Second thing is, integrations, right? So I do not work in production. As a developer, we all work in implementation tenant. And they say, here are these guys who have some, elevated access. You can proxyinize those guys, give yourself access, and make sure that we do our work. Once our work is done, tested in implementation, then and it is moved to production. If something goes wrong, then the security guys will take over. Correct? Or we can tell what we did to our security, or make sure that the ISSG we create has all the security needed to work in implementation tenant, so that the security guys then just copy the same thing. Mostly. Right. Everybody is lazy. Nobody wants to spend a time on a developer, say, okay, let me come and fix you up, right?
Right.
They think as a consultant we have enough knowledge to build the implementation to build a code on the implementation tenant, to test it out, to give enough security to the ISSG, so that when it goes to sandbox, they just have to copy what we did.
Correct. Yeah, that's a fair ask, basically, like, how it happens in a real-time world when you're working.
Right. But as a developer, if I do not understand security, right, I mean,
correct.
I won't say good, but decent enough to support my program, my code, right?
Correct.
Then then becomes too much of a back and forth.
I agree. Totally.
Which for me is a waste of time, which I do not want.
Right. I totally agree. So here are two approaches which we can take it. And I got your point, like, the pain point basically, and obviously as a consultant, you would want to understand it. And like, so here are two approaches. Obviously we would take both. One is like, I would share my screen and get into some of one of my tenant and show you how do we create it. That is number one, like that is on the creation part, like, security group, security user, how do you associate a user to a security group, and after that association, how do you give permissions? So that is something which I will show during my screen share over using my tenant, right? That's a part one. The part two is where I also would want, if you have access to any of your implementation tenant where you have your integrations, existing integration, wherein you can look at it so that you also get some idea from your own tenant also.
That's fine. And the other thing is, like the issue I was showing Pushpa was there was an error message which did not make sense to me. Okay. But I knew one thing. I knew that error message was because of security, because I know my code, right? So the moment I proxied it as somebody else, the code worked. That if I can also learn how to understand my security error messages.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
I mean, see, from the UI standpoint, you probably would only get those security error messages when you are actually running those integration, right?
Exactly, yes. Yeah. So I could make out that this is not my code, right? I'm saying, but I could not make out why it is not running for me. And of course, the other thing I did is I proxied as somebody who had a better access, and the code worked. So I know the code works fine. The code has no issues.
Yeah, I mean, see, to come to that conclusion is also not 100. I mean, that's a
I was just gambling away, right? You know, I
Correct,
was
correct.
thinking, yeah, it could be because I trust my code. It could be the access thing.
Right.
And maybe the guy who I proxied in as, even if he did not have the access, I thought, you know what, maybe it's my code, right? I logged in as
Yeah.
myself. I made the code, doesn't run.
Right.
And as proxied as this guy, it doesn't run. And maybe we both have no access.
Correct.
There
And
could have been a
also,
third person.
also sometimes what happens is like probably whosoever you are proxying and you are not getting that error while running integration, that could also be a possibility that the person whom you have proxied have a more than the required access. Like, you know, see, we want when we talk about security, we neither want to give less privilege nor we want to give more privileges.
Right.
We want to give the right privileges to the right population, right? Hence, it's a kind of a hit and trial also sometimes, like, you know, like as I work on production development environment, I know that, like, you know, it's a kind of a heck sometimes that you have to go back and forth and evaluate your security and see what's missing or what's extra, so that we'll look into it. So let's look at first aspect, like, you know, how you actually create those groups and users, and like, you know, how you basically, there are few tasks like, you know, few tasks which I will also ping you, and obviously since this I mean this recording will be there with you, so that will be helpful for you to have it. So let me start sharing my screen, and let me know once you're able to see. Just give me a second.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so let's start off and right away jump onto the topic, because I know you, I mean, we have spoken long back when you were getting onboarded. So I know that you have a fair understanding of few of the stuff. So like, you know, when you want to create a security user, so let's say you have an integration or a report or any item or any object in Workday which is there up and running, and now it's like you have to attach security or give security privileges to that particular report slash integration, anything. So we create, first thing is a user. Basically a user is a alias user. Now these are superficial user, obviously not like user like you and me who would actually log in into a tenant. So when we create a user, so the first basic task would be for you to know is create integration
Right.
system user, right? And now there are few attributes which are like, you know, which you would want to know. Like obviously you will give a name, and probably let's create one and I'll tell you one interesting thing. Not sure if you're aware of it. If you're already aware, that's good, but not, then that would be also helpful. So I created a security group, gave a password, and so are you aware of this something called do not allow UI session? Right? So and have you troubleshooted by enabling or disabling, like, you know, instead of using a proxy settings, because this itself gives you a lot of power, that if you're enabling or letting and do not check this box, right? So what you can do is, whatever user ID and password you have given, you can actually log in into the tenant and, like, you know, see the power or the security which is associated with your own account. But in general, in real time world, we click this box because we do not want anyone to actually have a UI session or log in through these alias naming, right? So let's create this security group. As of now, we have, okay, so we just created secure. Now the next task obviously is create integration. Okay, so this here. Okay, so let's create a security group. And in this case, obviously, when we are dealing with integration stuff, right, like the tech part of Workday, so we will pick up the unconstrained one. That is rule number one. And I'll tell you the reason also. So we always pick up integration system security group unconstrained one. The
Okay.
reason behind it is that when you are picking this template in the background, so what unconstrained versus constrained means that, hey, you are creating an alias user, and unconstrained over here signifies that it is your responsibility to give the relevant access to this particular security give or the domain permission, like in Workday the security permissions are basically of two types: domain permissions and business process permissions. Like the policies, basically what I'm talking about: domain policies, business process policies. So unconstrained, when you pick it up, then it gives you a flexibility to actually pick your own set of policies which you have to give it to this security group or associate with this security group. So right now, let's choose this template, and I am going to create, and that's a naming convention, obviously, and which is a standard one, but definitely organizations use. Yeah. And here what we do is, as of now, we will just attach our ISU, which we had
Okay.
created, right?
Okay.
So we are just attaching it. Obviously, right now, nothing makes sense. The only thing what it is making sense is, as a standalone, we created a security user. As a standalone, we created a security group. And all I'm trying to do is attaching the security user to this security group. Now, I also have the privileges to attach any number of security users to this
Okay.
security group. So that's a flexibility given to me. And under what circumstances I would do that? So let's say a simple example, like if there are 5 payroll related integrations, like Peachy or Peakoff, in a real time scenario. So let's say you are in US, and EMEA is one section, NEMR is one section, APAC is one section, right? So if there are payroll related integrations, Peachy integration, any of stuff for APAC, like for APAC country, India, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, and you would want them to have a similar kind of access, like those ISU account. So what you will do is, you will create a separate ISU for each of those country. Let's say ISU underscore Peachy underscore India, ISU underscore Peachy underscore Japan. But what you're gonna do is, you are going to associate with the same security group.
Got it.
Right? That does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, so yeah, so as I said, like multiple security users can be attached to a single security group. So that is what we are just trying to do right now over here. Okay. So now we understood 2 tasks. Now comes the third task. So now comes the third and an important task is maintain permissions for security group. Before that, let me also open up a separate tab, and there is a report called functional areas. Now that's a very standard one, functional areas. And I am going in the same sequence of how a person who's a newbie to this Workday world would want to go ahead, like kind of like, in a troubleshoot mode. So what this report gives me, functional area. So you see 100 items over here that probably can vary from tenant to tenant. Reason being, these are our testing tenant, and some of the functional areas are disabled, some are active, some of them are missing in some tenant. So hence, don't go with the fact that here it is 100, you might see a different count in your own tenant, right?
Okay.
So when I try to filter it under the functional area, and these are the functional area which are related to which are there in the Workday. And if I, for example, search for payroll, so obviously I see a lot of stuff related to country specific, because you can run US, UK, France, Canada payroll within the Workday. Like, Workday gives you the flexibility to run using there. But for rest of the countries, you can use a Peachy or a Peacock template, right? But so if I pick up a core payroll, like which is a functional area, so what it gives me, basically this particular report, and right now I'm trying to scan a functional area called core payroll, and I see over here at the right that there are set of domains and then set of business processes associated with this core payroll, right? So these are the set of domains, and these domains basically determines the kind of access which are there for which an user can does have it uh, in the system for them to able to access the payroll data. So let's say, so now I'm going to maintain permission for security group, and I'm getting couple of options. So this has been a recent change, not a recent, but some time back, that earlier it used to only be maintained, not a copy. So Workday has given a option of copying the security permission directly by providing a source security group. So right now what we are doing is, what is our security group? ISSG testing. And when we see it, we see that we don't have any access because it's a dummy, so now over here if you see, again we see a table called domain security policy permission and business process security policy permission. So think from an so I'm just I will try to visualize something that, and let me maybe open up a Word document which may help you to visualize. So we have something called security policy. Then we have something called security group. Security policy. And these again can be of domain or business process. We have security group, and there is something called securable item. So these are the basically three concepts which you need to understand from the Workday standpoint. So what happens is, like, now what is securable items in terms of Workday? It can be anything, any report, integration, field, object, etc.
Okay.
Collection of these things are called as securable items. Okay. Security group, you know that it's a comprises of can be associated with multiple ISU. Basically, multiple ISUs can be part of a same security group,
Okay.
right? And then we have the third thing called security policies, which are again of two types. One is domain security policies, and the other one is it visible, right?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Or maybe let me business process policy. Okay. Now how are these three concepts related to each other? So think of a aspect that securable items being on one side, right? And security group being on other side of the story. To bind a security group with these securable item, we have security policies in between, playing a agent which binds them together. Now you know that security group comprises of security user, securable items obviously are report, integration, fields and all. So now comes up the question which you asked, right? Like, how do you determine that, if there is a field? So always remember, securable items are what? Report, integration, any field in Workday. Now this field could be again delivered versus delivered or custom field, right? It could be anything in Workday. So anything any access for any of the securitable item is driven by a policy and then granted to a security group. So now hence come the question, like when you see an item among this, like, when you're creating a report and you see a field, when you see a field, how do you determine that what access you need for that particular field, right? To be given to your ISU account so that you may be able to access that field. So a simple example is, let's open one more tab to scan the security of that particular securable item. Like, right now we are talking about securable item. Could be a report, integration field. So if I have to take a field, so let's say a simple field, email, let's see what comes up. Obviously, so many fields will come up. Second. So many fields. Employee ID. Okay. Let's take easy one. What's happening? This view, I'm not liking it somehow. Okay. Where is reporting? Okay, let me open a report itself. It's very clumsy. Okay, so it's just a temporary report, which I just remember that I had created few days back, and I wanted to show you. So we have these fields, like, in this report, and obviously these are Workday delivered fields. Obviously, how you can see is like, from the field source, it says Workday delivered. Now comes the security aspect of the field. Now, how would you know that, like, what associations are required for my report or for my account or any of the ISU user which I am using to have the right security privileges to this field? And remember, I'm taking an example of this field because, as we saw, field is nothing but a part of a securable item, right? It is one of the type of a securable item. So how you can actually see, so you go to the security and you click on view security, and now you getting to know the functional area. So see, now this is the the association right now. So that's why I showed you. So if I scan it over here, the report which was functional area, and it says tenant non-configurable. And if I click over here, so now if you see over here, this particular, so when we talk about this, look at the security of this field, it gives me a table, and what it says is, it gives me the functional area. That's fine. I might not be requiring this, but what it gives me, an information of the security group. Now, if you see, there is a security group listed over here is all user. Now, if I open that security group, it itself says it's a Workday delivered security group, right? So it itself says that all user, there is a security group called all user, right? This field is accessible, and which field? Bank ID is accessible by this security group called all user. Hence, what it means that all the members of this security group will have access to this particular field in Workday.
Right.
Right. So
that's 916. You mean all the, that's a big list, right? Okay.
Right, because it says all users, so that's a it is a tenant, and obviously it's a common field, right? Bank ID.
Okay.
Right, bank ID is a common field. Obviously, all the employees of an organization would want to see their bank ID in the system, right? Hence,
it is their bank ID, right? Not everybody else's bank ID, correct?
their own respective bank ID.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Like an employee. So you will have your own bank ID. I will have my own. I will be able to see. So these are like common access, like, so what I'm trying to make you understand is the connection between a security group with a securable item.
Okay.
Right. So here, hence you are able to see the the security. Now this is one way, like, you go to a particular field and look up to this. Now there could be possibility that you don't remember the field, but you just know that, hey, something related to bank. So there is a task called view security for securable item. So basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to scan the security aspect of a securable item. And now this securable item can be anything, right? It can be anything. It can be a report, field, integration, or anything. So let's say if I just give, and it's a free text. If I just give bank, right? I don't know which field I want to know it. I just want to know any item which is related to bank, right? Any item. And also, yeah, one more thing which I missed out, not only report, it also could be task. So anything which you type in the search bar, you will have these tasks, right?
Okay.
Right. See, how will you get to know? It says report, report, report. So there, like, creates custom report. See, custom report is a task, right? So when you are trying to search with bank alone, it will give you anything which has, so it will give you all the categories. So what it is giving, all the securable items and also data sourcing. So actually I gave a small list, but honestly it's a this many list. So securable item is nothing but any task, any report, any field, background process, data sources, data source filter, service operation. Service operation are nothing but the API calls, like, REST API, right? So the moment I just gave the bank, right, now with related to bank, see, so many tasks are there which have a keyword called bank, right? But if I open the field and I want my bank ID one, see, this is here, bank ID one, right, which we scanned it. So if you see over here, right, again it says which functional area, all functional area, it is part of this one, right? And there are some data sources also. So for field, directly you will, and how will you go it? Okay, so let's say, let's pick up, uh, 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 um, 1 second. Okay, my report is not coming somehow. Okay, might be I haven't given privileges. Report field. Okay, sorry. Under reports. So CR underscore bank. Wow, awesome. Okay, it's not showing up. No worries. Okay, so yeah, so let's look up similar thing. So yeah, so you were talking about the fields. So when you have to look up any field, so when we saw this bank ID, if I have to look up bank name, so what you can do is you can directly click on the last tab which says the security, view security. So if I have to scan something called bank account, right, and I click on view security, so now you see a laundry list. Now see this, and this is important. Basically, this screen is important for you to understand. Why? If you see this table, this table depicts the entire story, what we have been talking about. Like how? So we are talking about a field called bank account, right? And here we have a table which gives me this list of security policy. So again, going back to our diagram, security policy, right? This policy. Then you have the functional areas, which you can ignore. And then you have the permitted security group, which are on this one, security group. So what does this says? This basically says that for you, for any user to have access to bank account, right? They should be part of this security group, basically over here, with the right security policy associated. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So basically what this is where it plays the entire picture, like how you actually troubleshoot or scan your thing, like, you know, what access is being given to which field, like, you know, if you have to drill down. So these policies are required, and how do you add these policies? That is where the important question is. So for example, these are the security policies, right? And
Right.
we went to a task called maintain permission for security group, right? So over here everything was empty, right? So
Right.
you add a click, you add over here, and it asks you for 4 types of things, whether it's a view, it's a edit, or like, you know, what kind of access it is.
Right.
View, modify, or get, like that. So you provide, let's say, get input, right? And
So
then you give,
get input is if you also update the field, right? That's what the, so if it's a outbound, you only need get.
so if it's an outbound, right, so you can look up only for the get one. Yes.
Okay.
Right. But what happens is, like, today your requirement might be only outbound, but later let's say there is an integration inbound where you have to do an update operation also, in addition to the read the data, but you will also have to do a update operation. So we suggest that you use a get input.
Okay.
And
Always. Okay.
obviously if you are using a SOAP API, like, you know, Workday delivered SOAP web services, so view and modify, those things will also come into the picture. So get input is something what is recommended. And here comes the security policies. So this is what, so now when you know that, okay, I have a field which requires the security policy, and I'm just giving an example. So if I just copy it over here and try to search, see over here it came in.
Okay.
So I am trying to add it. So what I'm trying, and this isn't done. So, and one important thing, see, right now I'm in the domain security policies. So whatever we spoke about it, right, we told that, hey, security policies are of 2 types: domain policies and business process. So domains are basically these items. So the securable item which I mentioned, these are securable domain items. Now you would ask, what are like, you know, this one, BP items. So BP items would be like, you know, basically the business process, like, you know, wherein you are making processes, wherein you are making some kind of grabbing some data from any of the BP, like higher BP, term BP, some processes wherein you are trying to do. So those are like BP, and those associated policies are to be added under the business process security domain, security policy permission tab, right? So that is over here. So
Okay.
I have added something and then click OK. Now the picture is not yet over. You might see that, hey, I got added, everything looks good. No, not yet. So there comes, so you have added, but Workday has not registered those changes. So
Right.
now you have to activate those changes. And when you type in activate, there are multiple stuff which comes in.
Right.
But always remember that you have to
Security.
pick up this third one, pending security policy changes.
Okay.
I will show you. I'm not sure if you are aware of this first one, which is very important. And ideally, should this task access should be given to only, I would say, like, you know, the administrator probably, because this ultimately rules the entire authentication stuff in the tenant, basically the rule set. Okay.
Okay.
So right now we are not interested in that, but what we'll look is the security policy. And the moment I say, okay, activate testing, I mean, I'm just providing a comment. and then it will come up and review for the changes. So see, this is what we added, right? We just, for alias, we try to add it. Obviously it's coming up under my name. I click confirm and say okay. And what it does is, now your security group, and now if I go back to a task called view security group, ISSG underscore testing, and scan it. Now, if you see, it has come over here. And now one important thing to notice over here, we added the security policy, right? This particular one. So now the functional area Workday has automatically interpreted, and how we can see this association. Again, we go back to our this report, which is called functional area. And to show you directly, I will filter it with supplier account. So let me supplier account, filter it. And I had told you that when you do filter with somebody, it gives you a list of domains and the BPs. So now it's a long list, right? So obviously the one which we had added, where is it? This one. Process supplier invoice payment settlement, right? So let me search with it. Process supplier, where is it? Supplier invoice. Damn, so many. Payment settlement. Yeah, this one. See over here, you see, it's here. Let me just copy it. String, it's not filtering it, but you got my point, right? Like,
yeah,
it takes up from there. So now what happens is, like, over here, what you're trying to do, what we are trying to do over here is that just give me a second. In this one, yeah. So so now you understood, right? Like how you actually we are providing a security group, user association of this policy with the security group, like associating it with over here. And now if in any point in time you face the issue of adding to a particular a report, a task, how you actually try to grab the policy and associate it with the security group. And then obviously your security group will comprise of or may not comprise of multiple users, basically. Any questions, Sunil, as of now?
Yeah, it is. I'm just saying, for one field, if you have to do all this, I don't. This looks to be a very cumbersome.
No, see,
process.
you won't be doing it for each field. You will be only doing it when you have issues for any particular field.
So when I go and create a new ISU,
okay,
and ISG, like I work in HC, I'm not finance right now, right? So when I create a new ISG, as you showed me, it was all blank. Is there a template which I just follow that I at least take,
No, unfortunately, no. I got your point, what you're trying to say. So what happens?
We make integrations like, we make 2 reports a week, or, integrations right and left. I'm just thinking, okay, so quick question for you. So when I make an ISG here, can ISSGs and ISUs, can they be transported across tenants?
Well, actually, you rightly asked a very good question. The answer is no. It's been a pain point for me for almost like 8 to 9 years, but these are non-transferable. When you have to move from one tenant to another, you have to create them from scratch and add the permissions. Probably that is the only way.
Okay, so if I am working in an inbuilt tenant, I build an integration, and then I spend all this effort trying to build a ISU, ISSG. The inbuilt tenant may have 40 fields. We need to make sure that all of the fields have access. Yeah, well, I see what you did, right? And probably if I take a video copy and keep it in one side, or take the cheat sheet you have in yellow behind, maybe I can do, but this will probably become a full-time gig, which
No,
is
no,
what we do
see,
not want.
no, see, the thing is that, like, as I mentioned that when you are building integration, so you are an implementation tenant, you are a developer. When you are
Right.
building this integration or report, right? So I took an example of a report field. Let me go
Right.
back to a report again uh, and just give you 1 second. See, it will not be a scenario where you won't have access to all the fields or whatever you have added in your report. So let's think of only from report. Obviously, same goes for the integration. But let's say if your report has some 50 fields, right now we have 5 fields. If there are 50 fields and you want to associate this report with owner as not a your account but as a ISU account, then this is a pain point that yes, you have to make sure. And obviously most of the fields are delivered fields, so you will not have a pain point of adding all the time the security is related to build your security group from a scratch. What you will do is
Yeah, that's my
you will
question. Yes.
you will make use of an existing security group, right? And then create only the user and attach it to the security group, which will just be a 2 minute task.
Okay, so I will always take an existing security group. That's
Yeah,
what people do. Okay.
yeah, that is what you do. So what you have to do is go security, view security group, right?
How do I
And
know which group to take?
well, see, that's something which obviously you would know when you have integration, and that's what I gave an example of payroll, right? If you are working on a payroll report or a payroll integration, you go and take a reference of the existing payroll integration, see which security user is attached to it, go to the security group of that particular user, and then analyze that security group.
Okay.
Did it make sense? What
Yeah, I'll have to
I
check my tenant and see, if I
yeah.
understand things, because I have till now only created integrations, and I've left it to the, I don't know, I won't say expert, but tell me, I'm a consultant, right? So I leave it to the employee to handle the ISUs, ISGs, right? As a programmer, I make my studio code, I get it, I test it, and it's like I'm done. But okay. So okay, it's 9:52 right now. So will you be available next week also? I need to go understand more.
Oh, definitely. I can help you
Okay.
understand.
Yeah, we can go into my tenant. I want to, because see, a lot of things in my tenant are not done by me right now, right? It's done by whoever. I don't care. I make my integration, I test it, I check the formatting, I check the data, and then I let it go.
Okay.
And somebody else takes over the ISU, ISG, which is fine. But as a consultant, I can do the same thing if I knew, right? I'm a
Okay.
billable guy, so I don't care, right? I can do everything you want. So why don't we go through? I understand what you did, right? But we need to have a smarter way of doing it, right? So I have a integration which I just built. It's a ADP integration. It's very simple. It's just deductions and benefits. But I have no ISU, ISG. I was hoping the employee in the company will do that for me. But maybe next week, if or whatever we meet next, if you can come in, we can go to my tenant, and you can help me. Well, I will do the work. You can guide me on how to create an ISU and ISG in that tenant.
Okay.
Right?
Got it.
And maybe, in real life scenario, I will understand better.
Yeah, that makes sense. No worries. And I think this is your major area of focus where you need
Yes.
more, where you basically were requiring like, kind of not a conventional training, but a kind of a knowledge gathering on these aspects.
Yeah, these are my daily bread and butter, right?
Hmm.
I want to deliver an end-to-end product, right? With an ISU, with an ISG, with a report, with a studio code, everything as a package, right? So people know, okay, I gave it to Sunil, he gave me everything. Okay, they should have, okay, he made this report, it only works when you proxy in as so-and-so guy. Now I have to go and get an ISU for him, get an ISG for him,
Right.
Well, and then because we migrate codes to production, right? Well, but we don't migrate ISUs. So they do it, right? So I could probably be an end-to-end guy. Well, not in production, of course, they will not give us access, but till sandbox, right? Okay, I think I need one more session for this, maybe in my tenant.
That's okay. That's okay. And just wanted to show you over here, like you can see one security group attached to multiple security user, and obviously you can hover it and to a particular user and see what all security group this particular user is part of. So like, so this is a security user, like, created mainly for the integration, obviously.
Okay.
And it is part of so many security group. Why? Because this
let me cut you. Sorry, is that a Workday defined user or
no, custom
user? Okay, not Workday. Okay.
So yeah, so what it is giving you, it's giving you all like, all the security group which had been it is part of, and gives you more privileges to the data set in Workday, so that when your integration runs, it is able to grab the data, like, get input, and all the operation can happen without giving you any kind of errors.
Yeah.
Right, so that is where all this the picture of security comes over here.
Okay, that is fine.
Yeah,
it was a good session. That is fine. And yeah, I think I need at least one more of this.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
no worries.
great.
Yeah, cool then.
Yeah.
Have a good day, and definitely I'll just update it in the discussion board. So I'll be there for the next one, and then
yeah, the next one is Monday for me. So if Monday works for you, Monday 9 same time.
Monday, yeah, Monday should be fine.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Sunil.
Appreciate. Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below, and we will reply to them at the earliest.